everyone, welcome to the Zone Defense Podcast. I'm here with Roman in this one. Just an instant reaction. As you can see right on our screen right now, we have the tweet. Adam Schefter, Detroit is dealing Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for 2 first-round picks in the future, a third-round pick, and quarterback Jared Goff. It's honestly, obviously, a shocking news for me and Roman, both as huge Lions fans. I mean, so shocking to see him leave. I know there was the rumors. We weren't totally ambushed by this trade, but at the same time, at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, it probably wasn't too expected for either one of us. So, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm going to let Roman go first. He's a huge Lions fan, obviously super loyal, a lot more than me, loves to pick him in the pick 'em often. And, I've expressed concern about that before with them not being very good this year. But, let's hear from you, Roman. What do you think about this deal?
Yeah, well, I'll start first of all and say this is something that we were going to have in the doc for the Super Bowl episode in the news and notes. But obviously, this is happening a lot earlier than any of us expected. There was kind of news that this deal would have been done before the Super Bowl anyways. So we kind of expected it. But this is honestly pretty random, and kind of our commentary will be off the cuff. We didn't prepare a script or anything, so this is gonna be raw emotion. We've had an hour or so to debrief or to settle in, and there's a lot to talk about, both sides, both parties. But yeah, it's very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it for both teams. We'll start off with the Lions side. I mean, obviously Stafford, it was kind of a mutual, parting of ways by both the team and Matthew Stafford. Obviously, he's been around for a super long time, former first overall pick from out of Georgia, obviously has been really good in Detroit, but you can't really say the same about the team's success since he's got here. Only a few playoff bursts, 0 playoff wins, a lot of numbers for Stafford. And obviously the city, both me and Roman and Drew, obviously all three of us love him, and he's been great for the team. But at the same time, they haven't. It's either they've had some bad breaks in the playoffs, or Stafford, either they don't get it done, or Stafford doesn't have enough around him for them to be very competitive as a team. It's really I guess the career of Matthew Stafford here in Detroit was, I'm going to remember it as, he was basically our childhood quarterback pretty much. Basically, since I started watching football, I was Matthew Stafford every single season while I was into football. It's going to be really weird seeing him in a Rams jersey, but I think it was a move that Detroit needed to make. Obviously not getting a first rounder this year. It's kind of concerning because I was hoping to get another one this year, potentially to move up in the draft or just get 2 high quality prospects. Now, we get a third-round pick. I believe it's this year, so that'll be interesting. To see what they do with that. A third-round, day 2 picks they're still pretty valuable. I mean, you see a lot of good players get traded for third-round picks, and I mean, so they're not nothing. I think that's going to be an overlooked thing. This year, if they're able to hit on that pick, it could jumpstart this rebuild a little bit more. They have the 7th overall pick, so that hopefully they can draft a good player. But I don't think they're going to take a quarterback anymore this year. I don't know about you. We'll get your opinion on that right after this. But they did get Jared Goff. I know. I don't really think. I think he's pretty trash. I mean, he's still young, like it says on the tweet. He's a former first overall pick, the Rams' last first round pick, actually, which is insane. But he's their last first round pick. But I don't think Goff's very good personally. I think it was a product of Sean McVay's offense. I think he really held them back. So I'm concerned about that portion because I don't think we're going to be taking a quarterback in the drafts. Instead, we're going to have to rely on Jared Goff for any success or failures that we have this season. And I think it's going to get ugly this year, but maybe they end up drafting one next year. But two other first round picks in the future. Not really much to say about them now. I think the Rams will be pretty good, probably late first, but it doesn't, still a late first round pick it's worth a lot. You're still getting a really high level prospect and a guy, you can use that 5th year option on as well. So that's always a valuable thing for teams to have, just able to use that if the players end up working out. But, I've talked for long enough about their side. I'll let Roman go ahead and get into it, man.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously we were thinking of sending him to a contender, so we kind of knew what we were getting into with the draft picks potentially being late in the first round. Rams obviously a contender now with Stafford, but the major problem, I guess you could have said, when those rumors were coming out, not yet official, was that the Rams obviously don't have a first round pick this year. But the fact that we're getting multiple, one in 2022 and 2023, I think that makes up for it. And we obviously know your opinion on Goff. You've been very adamant about that the whole season, which is pretty ironic when that news came through. I originally thought of you and what you were going to say, but I think he's better than any possible bridge quarterback in free agency, like a Tyrod or a Fitzpatrick, or a Winston. I think I would take Goff over any of those guys. So in that sense, I think we're getting obviously a downgrade from Stafford, but an upgrade over what we could have had. And his contract isn't going to be as weighty as we initially thought. We can get into that a little later, but yeah, it makes it a lot more interesting now with only one first round pick still at 7. We could still go quarterback, but there's no even guarantee Goff will be the starter going into 2021. We could flip him as well for other picks. So we don't truly know what their plans are for Goff, but as of right now, he's going to be the starter for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I fully expect him to be the day one starter here. And I know you said, we could trade Jared Goff. I don't think we're getting much more than maybe a 7th rounder for him, man. I really don't. I mean, you look at this is more based around his contract. I mean, it's going around a lot. He obviously had a really rough they signed him to a long-term deal just not that long ago. The Rams did, so we're going to be having to eat some of that salary for the next few years, which isn't great. But at the same time, he, like you said, he's probably a bridge quarterback to whatever guy we end up drafting. I mean, Goff, he's still young. I like I said, I don't think he's good at all. I think he's pretty trash actually, and probably doesn't have a starting job after a couple of years, even if it's, they trade him or like you said, or he's around here. I don't think he'll have a starting job for much longer in this league. But, it's a guy that, he's had some success before, he's been on a downtrend, but you never know, maybe a change of scenery. He really works on his stuff this offseason. He definitely has arm talent. There's no question about it. It's just the decision making. I don't think he wasn't a very good game manager for them. The Rams, and I'm worried about that system being a good fit for him. They kind of had to handicap their system just because their quarterback wasn't that good, in my opinion. That's just what I think about Goff. He's really good out of the play action. He's not very mobile though, and he struggles to throw the deep ball, which they won't have any problems with Stafford now. Going to the Rams, he's going to be unloading some bombs for them for sure, which is definitely probably one of the more appealing attributes of Stafford's game in that offense. But Goff, I mean, we'll have to see about him. Maybe he ends up just being awesome here with Kenny G, hopefully getting re-signed, and they maybe they can build around him. Then just put a defense together for once in their lives. But what do you think Jared Goff's future is with the Lions?
I think it's a win-win if you kind of think about it. We could either, obviously he has 2 years left. We could cut him with no penalty after 2 years. So you can either let him play the 2 years and see how he does. If he improves tremendously, gets his life back on track, his career on track, then maybe we can flip him after that. Otherwise, we could draft a quarterback at 7 or draft a quarterback next year if we're bad, and then just have that rookie take over. So I think we either can go out with Goff, or you can commit to him, I guess, after the 2 years. Or if he does bad, then you have a rookie behind him to take his place. So either way, I think we're going to be smart about what we do. I know every hire that we've made the past couple of weeks has been a home run hire. It's been very welcomed by the fans. So I think we know that they're going to do things different, do things smarter. And I think we got to trust them with whatever they do with Goff.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see about him. They could always, use some of that capital to trade up and get a quarterback in this draft. I mean, I think that's a possibility as well. They use the 7th pick, they use one of those future first rounders, and they go up and get their guy. I mean, I think there's definitely a chance for that. There's no question about it. I even saw a couple tweets, TJ Lang in particular, mentioned that they use some of that future draft capital to move up. But, I think that could be a possibility. They use Goff for a year or two. They let this dude learn, this quarterback, whatever it would be, learn under him, and then he ends up taking over and hopefully being good. I mean, that would be the hope. But another potential win situation for the Lions would be if Goff / the Lions are absolutely horrible next year, which I expect them to be one of the worst, if not the worst team in football next season. I wouldn't expect more than maybe 3 wins for this team personally. If they get the first overall pick, I'd argue North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell is a better prospect than Trevor Lawrence. I absolutely love this kid. I think there's almost no flaws in his game. I think he is if he was able to be drafted this year, he'd already be a top 3 pick. I think next year, without the running backs being there, they're leaving. He's going to be asked to do a lot more. I think he's really going to show everybody why he is the absolute, at least if not better than Trevor Lawrence, at least as good of a prospect as Trevor Lawrence. I think he's that good of a quarterback. So if the Lions are that bad and they don't take a quarterback this year, that could be their potential selection at number 1 overall. But, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm getting really excited because any chance to have that dude as our future quarterback would make me extremely happy. Because, like I said, I really like his talents. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league in the future. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. Like you said, I do agree with you. I like the deal as a whole. It's not going to pay off right away, clearly, because we didn't get a first rounder this year. And Jared Goff, I don't think he's going to end up paying off. But we'll have to see about that. Let's get into we'll get into the Rams side. I'll just let you take the floor right away since I've been talking a lot about the Lions. Go ahead and talk about what do you think Stafford and this team. What's their ceiling now? Is this a Super Bowl team? Are they a better playoff team? What are they?
I think they're definitely contenders for sure, but the main problem with me is that they're in a very, very good division. I think if he was with the Colts, they'd be instant division winners. You could chalk that up right away. Yeah. But now he has to compete against the Seahawks, the up-and-coming Cardinals, and you can't count out the 49ers as well if they have Jimmy G or not, because they have a good defense and at least good offensive weapons. So it's going to be a very, very stacked division. And I hope the Rams can come out on top, but it's going to be really tough for them. But I do think they can pull it off. If Wilson doesn't have a good year, possibly if Jimmy G declines as well, if Murray takes a step back, then you can see the Rams excel, because it's not about the Rams team being good. It's whether Stafford can make that leap, I guess you could say, to play winning football on a contender, because it's something he's never going to have to do before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we disagree a little bit, because I think they're definitely maybe not Super Bowl favorites, but if not Super Bowl favorites, they're definitely in the top 2 or 3 in the NFC. I think this is a team that's very well rounded. Their defense was awesome this year. I mean, they almost won the division this year with being handicapped by, Jared Goff's lack of ability as of right now in his NFL career. I think bringing in Stafford, having Sean McVay, I'm not worried about the winning the playoff problems for Stafford. I think he's going to instantly come here and they're going to perform. I think the only concern I have with the Rams is that they have a lack of a deep ball threat on their team. I think they use a second round pick maybe this year. I think they still got a second rounder to draft. I don't know if Anthony Schwartz is in this draft class, but that'd be awesome if he went there. There's a lot of other really fast receivers in this class. A lot of guys that are still going to be in this deep, really good wide receiver class that may even be better than next year. I think they go out and use that pick on a burner receiver, or they maybe even trade up and to the late first and get a better guy even. But, I think that's the one thing this team is missing. They have a decent offensive line. They have a really good run game, up-and-coming Cam Akers. They have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I think they're just missing that, take the top off the defense receiver, which Jared Goff wouldn't have utilized very well because he can't throw the deep ball. But, Stafford, clearly total opposite quarterbacks. I think it's a win for the Rams. Like I said before, they haven't had a first-rounder in 7 years, but that really hasn't been a problem for them. I mean, they've been at least a good team, almost won a Super Bowl without a first-round picks, like all these picks. So, I don't think that's a big deal to them. I think they've done a good job getting later picks in the draft. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Stafford and Sean McVay, are able to, use their, I would say, at least in McVay's case, his elite offensive mind, and then Stafford's, I would say, at least elite arm talent. Maybe he's not a total elite quarterback, but at least elite arm talent. I think those two in conjunction are going to make this a very successful couple years for the Rams. And I think they could end up getting that ring that they've been alluding to.
Yeah, and in terms of Stafford's contract, the Rams are going to take on his 2 years left. So they have that window at minimum. They could extend him after that. That could possibly be a possibility. But like you said, it's going to be you got to watch out for the Rams next year. They're going to be contenders for sure. If they had Stafford versus the Packers, they would have competed in that game. It's definitely an upgrade from Goff, but overall, I think we have to say that the Lions won the trade. If you had to pick a winner, based off of the future implications, the first round picks, there were plenty of other bidders in this trade or in this deal potentially, but the Lions felt like the Rams made the best offer. There's some rumors of the 49ers giving up 2 seconds and 2/3. Wouldn't have been a bad offer, but there's obviously no first involved. It's going to be a lot of fans are not like it because of no first this year, but I think obviously Holmes' expertise is the draft. So if he can hit on those first round picks in the future, we're going to have 2 next year, 2 in 2023. I think if we hit on those picks, I think they're going to give us solid guys. And even for this year, I wouldn't even consider the Lions as a rebuilding team because of the possibility of bringing back Okora and Galladay. So I think the Lions are not necessarily rebuilding, but we could take a step back, obviously, with Goff as a quarterback. What do you think about that?
I think you're wrong. I think the Lions are going to be in a total rebuild, at least for the next season. And don't get me wrong, they may re-sign both Kenny G and Okora, but it's not going to matter. This team's going to be awful next year. I think they easily could make a case for that number one pick next year. And hey, if not, I mean, we've said these future first round picks. I mean, after next season, it's all about the year after for me now. I mean, they're not going to be good this year, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they have any chance of making the playoffs or even coming remotely close to finishing. Maybe they finish third in the division if Goff's really good. But I think other than it's a team very lacking of talent on both sides of the ball. But I think they have an opportunity to re-sign Kenny G here. They need to give Goff any chance of success, and I think they'll get Okora back for a team-friendly deal as well. So I think they can re-sign both those guys and still be in a full rebuild. Just got to be whether or not Kenny G wants to go through that. To see the light at the end of the tunnel, because there's definitely one there. I mean, now this deal's official. I mean, they have 4 first-round pick, 5 of the next 3 years, and an extra third rounder as well. And hopefully, our own picks are going to be extremely high as well. That's what at least that's what my assumption is, because I don't think they're going to be very good. But if they got the second or third overall pick and they are better than one of the the first overall pick, and that team doesn't need a quarterback, maybe they could use one of those late first plus their early first and move up and get that and get Sam Howell is who they need to get. Obviously, I really want him, but it's going to be interesting to see for both these teams what directions. Obviously, the Rams trying to win that Super Bowl. They got probably a 2-3 year window to win one now. Maybe they extend Stafford for a couple more years. We'll have to see about that. And the Lions, I mean, the light's at the end of the tunnel, man. It's a very distant light, but it's there's one there for sure. One more point I wanted to make, though, is, I think this has a big implication for another team and player, and that's Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. I think his price just went up a lot because, I think Stafford was the second best quarterback that was potentially going to be on the market this year in a trade. Watson, clearly the number one guy. I think the Niners and Colts are definitely not done making moves this year, and I think he's going to either one of those teams if he ends up getting traded, which I expect him to still. Despite the Texans saying much of dumb crap about him being their future quarterback, I don't think there's any chance he will be back next year. I think his price just went up a lot, maybe an extra first rounder, maybe even more than that. What do you think about Watson? And let's get a prediction from you. Where do you think he's going to end up going?
Yeah, for Watson, I think before the Stafford trade, the very minimum was 3 first-round picks. So I think it's going to go a little bit higher than that, maybe some players in addition to it. But unlike you, I'm going to disagree. I think he's going to go to either the Jets, the Dolphins. I think those are the only 2 teams who have the capital to even give up 3+ first-round picks in the next couple of years. Obviously, Miami and the Jets both have 2 first-rounders in this draft, and I think the Jets have 2 next year because of the Jamal Adams trade. So the Jets and Dolphins are probably going to be my top 2 teams that are in contention for Watson. I think Watson would, if he went to Miami, he'd make him a contender. And if he went to the Jets, they're going to be a lot more attractive to free agents and other players.
I think I'm going to predict them going. I think I'm going to predict Watson going to the 49ers. I think, they're not done making offers. This is another team that needs to capitalize on their Super Bowl window, which I think is a couple years. It's not, and they don't have a window with Jimmy G being their quarterback. But I don't know why. I feel like Jimmy G is going to be a Texan this year. I think that those 2 get swapped. You add in a couple first, maybe even another second to maybe a player. I think they can get that done. I think that's the team I'm going to predict them to. It's going to be very interesting to see, where he ends up going, but I think his price just went up a lot.
And I'm going to double back to the Stafford trade real quick so we can close it out. I think, obviously you got to remember the Lions play in LA next year, so we will see Stafford again, even though it won't be at home. It's going to be very interesting to see Goff or Stafford again, but on switch sides. And I have 2 quick questions to ask you. Do you think the Lions won the trade or no?
I do think they won the trade. It's obviously a risk not getting that first overall pick. These could be as far as we know, the 32nd and 32nd picks in the draft for the next 2 years. But even then, I think you can't you can't be harmed by extra draft capital. And regardless of it being a first this year or first next year, I'm absolutely on board for both the picks. Getting a third this year helps. And then obviously, I mean, my opinions on Jared Goff, but he's not worth nothing. Let's be honest. He's not worth absolutely nothing. So, we'll see. Maybe he's still young. Maybe he can turn it around. But, I think it's going to be extremely interesting. And then what was your other question?
Do you think the Lions take a quarterback at 7?
I think they pass on a quarterback this season. They draft the best defensive player available. If Galladay hasn't resigned, maybe they go wide receiver instead. But I think they're going to hold off this year, and then they're going to be bad enough to be in contention for taking one next year. I think that's going to be my opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they take quarterback this year unless they want a bridge guy for the next couple of years, like a Lance, because he's a quarterback that can sit for 2 years and then start after that. But I'm more inclined to think now that we'll either go wide receiver or the best defensive guy available, like Parsons.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going after a guy like Parsons. This linebacking core has been easily one of the worst in the NFL for the last few seasons. So I think he makes them an instantly a lot better group, with him and Collins. So I think that would be probably their pick at there. And then, like I said, I think the Rams are going to be very much in the running for one of those burner receivers in this draft class. And there's a lot of them, man. This is, like I said, maybe a 12, 15 receiver, at least in terms of skilled prospects, deep class. So they're going to have plenty of options there with their second round pick. And that's pretty much their only pick in the first 2 days. So I mean, they gave up their third. So second, it's going to be a lot riding on that pick for the Rams. I think they need to go get a burner, and I think they will absolutely do that because their defense is so good. So, just to summarize, we both believe the Rams are going to be good. I think they're a little bit more in that Super Bowl contention. You're more, they're in a tough division, which is very true, but they can definitely get the job done. And then the Lions, I'm sure you're a little more optimistic on them next year. I'm extremely pessimistic on their chances to win more than 3-4 games, but I think the future is very bright, and we definitely both agree on that. Any final remarks before we close this off?
This is going to be interesting. This is the start of the offseason right here, and we're going to get a lot more crazy trades with Watson. Maybe the Lions aren't done making moves. We'll have to see, but there's a lot of interesting things coming up, and I'm just glad we got to get this update video out of the way soon. You have to wait until next week for the Super Bowl episode.
Yep, I couldn't agree more, Roman. And, we may be making another one for a crazy other deal like a Deshaun Watson or another big-time player. I'm sure this won't be the last little update video we end up doing for a big trade this offseason. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see what happens. Like I said before, I'd say both teams won this deal. I think it's going to be, the Rams need to win a Super Bowl now. The Lions need to start rebuilding, retooling this roster to get back into playoff contention, which it seems like a long time away, but I trust me, I don't think, and I'm a Lions pessimist all the time. I don't think it's as far as, I think maybe 2-3 years down the road, we could be talking about this team as a legit contender. So we'll have to see what they end up doing with these picks, but that's going to do it for this episode of the Zone Defense Podcast. Make sure you leave a comment, about this trade. I'm really interested to see if anyone, will respond to those as well. We'll all be active in the comments. We could talk about these trades. You can talk about whatever else you want. Where you think Watson's going to go? Do you think the Lions go quarterback this year? Do you think the Rams win the Super Bowl? Anything, we'll talk about anything in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, follow us on social medias at the Zone Defense Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for the memories, Matthew.